Hello, my name is Chris and today I want to talk about cigarette cravings, about saying no to those cravings and about why it's so important that we do. Because when we give in to a craving, we're not just giving up on that quit attempt, we're also making it much more challenging for us to give up in the future. The more I think about this, the more I believe that the best way for me to explain my thinking is to talk about a small child, like a toddler. A small child who hasn't yet learned appropriate ways to get their needs met. A child who hasn't yet quite grasped the meaning of the word no. We think about a child and they want something that really isn't good for them and they shouldn't have. Mum, Dad, I want a great big bowl of ice cream for breakfast. And then Mum and Dad say, well, no, you can't have the big bowl of ice cream for breakfast because it's unhealthy. You need to start the day with a healthy meal. And then the child goes, but I want it. No, but I want it. No. And before you know it, the child is kicking and screaming and having a full-blown temper tantrum. Just, Now, I'm no parenting expert, obviously. But I imagine that if the child kicks and screams and throws the temper tantrum and then you say, okay, fine, have the ice cream for breakfast, you're teaching the child that that's how to get what it wants. Especially if you do this, the next day, the child goes, I want ice cream for breakfast again. And then you go to the supermarket, Mum, I want this really unhealthy stuff, and it throws a tantrum. And every time it throws this tantrum, if you say, oh, go on then, we're teaching this child that if you want something, just have a tantrum and you'll get what you want. If Mum and Dad say no, kick and scream and cry, and eventually they'll give it to you. Now, you may already be way ahead of me and figure out where I'm going with this. But if not, let's link this back to smoking. So we decide that we're going to quit smoking because it no longer does us any good. It never did us any good, but we've lost that illusion that it's helping us. So we decide to quit smoking. And after a little while, the body starts to ask for some nicotine. Hey, give me a smoke. And it does this by bringing up a craving. And it might be quite mild at first. I remember when I was quitting smoking, my cravings everything would just start to get a little bit sharper, a little bit tighter, a little bit more tense. So we ask for the nicotine in this way and we say, no, smoking is bad, you're not having a cigarette. And the body doesn't take no for an answer, it goes, but I want it. And everything starts to get a little bit more tense and a little bit more sharp, or however cravings manifest themselves for you. And we say no. And the body goes, but I want it, I want it, I want it. And basically starts to have the same kind of temper tantrum that a small child would have. Okay, it's very, it's different in the fact that it's within us, but we start to have that full-blown, intense, awful craving. For me, I've always said it was like my skin was itching from the inside out, my blood was boiling, I wanted to tear my own hair out and go, oh, just give me a fucking smoke. I remember that. But basically all that was my body kicking up a big fuss and saying, hey, give me that nicotine. And the same thing applies to small children. If we give in and say, okay, here's the nicotine, we're teaching, we're becoming conditioned to the fact that that's how to get the nicotine. We're teaching the body that if there is no nicotine coming, Give us a really awful craving and make everything terrible and you'll get the nicotine. So we give in, we have the cigarette, and then we go, okay, well that wasn't helpful, so let's quit again. And then the next time, we might go a little bit longer without the nicotine, but the body knows this is how I get nicotine. Has the temper tantrum and gets the nicotine again. The next time we go a bit longer, the craving starts to get more intense, and we go, no, this time I'm putting my foot down, I'm saying no. And the body doesn't quite understand. It's like, well, this is how I get nicotine, so it makes the craving even more intense and it lasts even longer. And then we say yes again, and we get stuck in this circle of trying to quit and then giving in and conditioning the body that this is how to get the nicotine. So we need to break that cycle. The easiest, in fact the only way to break that cycle is to say no. Like I said, I understand how intense, how awful it can be. The whole reason that I do this every week is because quitting smoking was just awful for me, and I want to try and make it a little bit easier for other people. So I get how terrible it can be, but I also know that the only way to break that cycle is to say no. And teach the body that no matter how much of a tantrum you have, no matter how awful you make those cravings, you are not getting that nicotine. And in time, the body will learn, well, okay, there's no point having a craving because it doesn't help. Just like the child will hopefully learn that there's no point throwing myself on the floor, kicking and screaming and crying because I'm still not having that ice cream for breakfast, right? Now, I appreciate that it's easier said than done. But you may already have a few coping strategies for dealing with those cravings. For me, one of the easiest ones was to just breathe through it. Not to make the craving go away necessarily, but to just breathe through it, to get those good feelings rushing through my body to counter the bad feelings of the craving. And that wasn't working. I used a technique I came up with called the Purge. And I just imagined that the intense feeling that I was getting was all the toxic gunk and all the nicotine and all the poison rushing through my body so that it could reach the surface of my skin and basically evaporate out of me and leave me for good. I made a video about where I talk through the Purge, and I'll link to it up in the card below and down in the description. It was just something that helped me, and it may or may not help you. Another thing is to use all that adrenaline, all that aggression, all that needing to do something into some kind of physical activity. Not necessarily going to the gym or running a marathon, but just something physical to use and expend that energy. And if it's something that is, that you're passionate about, if it's something that you genuinely enjoy doing, it's also going to be a much better distraction. We always say things like, oh, if you're craving, go for a walk. But if you hate walking, or your neighbourhood sucks and it just brings up bad memories, then that's not going to be helpful, because now you're just going, well, I'm walking and it's crap and I still want a cigarette. But if you do something that is genuinely, that genuinely makes you feel good, it's going to help way more. And if you need more suggestions and you need more help with quitting smoking, come and meet my friends in the Finding Freedom Facebook group. It is facebook.com/groups/findingfreedom1. There is such a wonderful community of people at all stages of their quit. Some have quit for a very long time, some are just starting out, and I'm sure they'll all have some suggestions and helpful tips for you. You'll also find other suggestions, tips, and my own personal journey of quitting smoking in my book. It is called Quit Smoking and Be Happy. It is available in print and ebook form. And if you are a Kindle Unlimited user, it is currently free for I don't quite know how long. One last thing, if you've already bought the book and you've enjoyed it and you found it helpful, please consider leaving me a review on Amazon. It will help me tremendously. With all that sales pitch stuff out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support. I hope you found this video helpful, or at least that it's given you something to think about. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.